Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys joining us for today's video. Today, guys, I'm going to identify the number one thing that I believe that holds anglers back from becoming really good fishermen and keeps you guys from catching fish, and is just the biggest impediment all the way around to, being successful as an angler. We're going to talk about that, give you guys some tips and advice on how to avoid that in today's video. I'm also, guys, two quick housekeeping tips here that you guys hear every day that you probably get tired of. I just want to invite everybody to please consider hitting that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. It's free and easy. It's a good way to support the channel. And also, please check out my new Blaukat's Corner page up on Tackle Warehouse. Every month, I list all the top lures for that particular month. We got all the November lures up there right now with a correlating video to each lure. So if you guys want to check that out and order some of those baits, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link up in the description. You can go right to that. Really appreciate it. Okay, there's a lot of different things that determine success in fishing. A ton of them. I mean, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of variables. But if I could give you guys one thing that I see people struggling with, the reason they simply can't really get over that next hump and get to that next level of success as an angler, is they don't understand how to assess the potential of a fishing spot they're in. In other words, sometimes they overestimate or they underestimate how good a spot is based upon a lot of different type of feedback they're getting. So I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to identify a good area, how to identify a poor area, and how to identify sort of a medium area. Now, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the best areas, how to identify a really good area. A really good area to catch bass in is going to be an area that has a combination of the following factors. It needs to have some type of cover present. Now that cover can be, whatever your lake has. It can be grass, wood, rock, lily pads, whatever it is. But you have to have a pretty good amount of cover to fish, and offshore grass, anything like that. The next thing that you have to have in combination with that is you have to have that cover that is positioned fairly close to deep water. Now, I don't mean if you are fishing a lay down tree and right over your back it's 40 foot deep. I'm talking about whatever cover that you're fishing, the relative deep water to that particular cover is usually within maybe, at the very most, 50 yards away, where it gets deeper, where those fish have some type of a place where they can retreat to if they have to. If you have some type of an area that is just shallow and flat and doesn't have much access to deep water, the potential of that area is going to be limited with that. So that is the number one thing. And obviously, as those factors decrease, when you get into an area that may have some cover but doesn't have a lot of cover, and the deep water access is a little bit further away, that can be a marginal type area. And then finally, if you have those areas out there that don't have much cover, don't have much access to deep water, those areas have very, very poor potential in order to catch fish. So the next question you have to figure out, and you have to assess along with that, once you've determined that you're in a high potential area, and you always want to be in the high potential area, you don't want to be in those low potential areas. But once you've identified that you are in a high potential area based upon the factors I just talked about, then you have to determine how to approach that particular area the best. And the approach that I'm talking about is you have to decide how long to fish that area before you leave based upon the results that you're getting. Now, one of the things about it is, like, if you have an area that has a lot of good cover in it, like an area that's got a big offshore grass bed, or if you got a bank that's got a bunch of boat docks on it close to deep water, or you got everything's perfect and lined out, and if you fish that area and you don't catch a fish, don't give up on that spot. I mean, most of the time, if you're in a high potential area, it's just a matter of figuring out the right technique. Go back through it with a different color, different lure size, a different presentation, and spend some time with that. And that's one of the big keys with that is trying to figure out what those fish want. Try to figure out if they want a moving lure or a slow lure or a big lure or a small lure. Maybe there's a time of day that the fish bite better. Maybe there's a real good bite right off in the morning, and then it gets slow, or maybe there's a bite up in the afternoon. But the only way that you really know that is to spend some time in that area. So if you have an area like that, don't get in a big rush to leave it. If I have a spot like that as a large area with a lot of cover on it, unless I'm just not getting anything, say I spend 2 or 3 hours in there with some different techniques and I'm not seeing much activity, minnows or bait fish or anything, then I'll leave it, after 2 or 3 hours. But most of the time it's going to take me that long. I'm not going to leave that area until I've exhausted it. Now, if sometimes you can catch a few fish off of those areas that are not high potential areas. Now, let me give you a good example of this. Let's say, for example, you're fishing down a stretch of bank that doesn't have much cover on it, and there's not a lot of deep water nearby, but there's one boat dock. You look back in this cove, and this cove doesn't have hardly any cover, but there's one piece of isolated structure, which is that dock. A lot of times there'll be a resident fish that takes up on any piece of isolated cover. It could be a log in the water, it could be a dock, it could be a tree, it could be whatever. That's sort of an exception to the rule, but the problem with that is you don't have a lot of potential, because that's an isolated one-off situation. Now, sometimes you can run a pattern with that, but it's very difficult. The thing that you want to do in order to maximize and have consistent success as an angler is when you get out on the water, or even before you get out on the water, you can do it by looking at your Google Earth maps and stuff. Identify those high percentage areas, the areas that have everything that I just talked about, and spend all of your time in there. And the more that you put yourself in good water, the odds of you catching fish are going to go way up. And just take your time. Don't slop through an area. Fish it at a decent pace, but don't fish too fast. And if you fish at the right pace and you put yourself around the best water, and you adapt and you change up different techniques and different lures, you're going to catch some fish, and you're going to be consistently catching fish. So anyway, guys, hope that helps out, and we'll talk later.